Karen's job today is protect you against yourself, pretty much. Investors have a way of figuring out how to do things in the most tricky way, and that's what her job is, to go, no, you can't do that. After 20 years of experience at Bank of America, IndyMac, and her own mortgage brokerage experience, Kaaren saw the recession take hold and the mortgage market collapse rather than folding up her tent. Kaaren took her real estate and finance knowledge into a promising new direction, self-directed IRAs. She is president of uDirect IRA Services and educates thousands of American investors on how to use their IRA, invest in real estate, notes, and other assets outside of the stock market to improve their financial future. And she's a wonderful speaker, and we've done this many times with her, so thank you for coming back. Thank you. Let's see if that works.
Thank you. I guess this is the clicker. Right. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. Good morning. I think we should give the Norris Group a big hand for this beautiful event. They all worked tirelessly. Is this a beautiful room? Right? It's so wonderful. Like Bruce was saying, you'd hate to be here in an earthquake. You know, all the statues. Okay. Well, welcome this morning. I'm Kaaren, and my company is uDirect IRA Services. And what we do is we help you, as Bruce was saying, take your IRA or your retirement account, your old 401k, and invest it the way you know best. You know, invest it outside of the stock market. And so there we go. So I'm afraid of the microphone right now, but here we go. So this is a little disclaimer that what we do is we help you self-direct your IRA, but what we don't do is tell you what to invest in. We're not financial advisors, right? It's self-directed, so you're choosing the asset that you get to invest in. So can you write it off on your taxes? Well, we've got Matt and Amanda from Keystone CPA here to answer your tax questions. Is it legal? We have you talk to a lawyer. So we get really close to the different kinds of advice. We almost give tax and legal advice, and yet we don't. So that's our company. We do help you self-direct your IRA, and by the time we're done this morning, you're gonna know so much more about it. And if you've got questions, I'd love to hear about it. I need to update this slide because I was just back from the Retirement Industry Trust Association, our meeting in Las Vegas, our fall conference, and now it's more like $7.5 trillion in America just in IRAs. And this is also another point to make here, that with this, there is a huge deficit between what Americans have and what we need to retire, really big deficit. So you're here to learn how you can save for retirement so that you don't become a statistic and not have enough. But if you had $100,000 in an IRA, which is pretty average, and you decided that you were going to retire at 59 and a half, and you were gonna live until you're 86 and a half, so you're gonna take even distributions that whole time, you're only gonna have like $400 a month to live on. So if you think $100,000 saved is a lot, I mean, it is, but you need so much more. And so I'm so happy that you're here learning how to save for retirement. Because I think when it comes to retirement, none of us can really save enough as we continue to live longer and have higher quality, lives that are of higher quality. So this is the number that needs to be changed from $6 trillion to $7.5 trillion in IRA money in America. So if you're looking to raise capital, who in this room is looking to raise capital? We've got some people. Well, what you can do is you can ask this question. You can say, do you have an IRA or do you have a 401k with a previous employer? And if the answer is yes, that they have one of those, they can direct their money into a self-directed IRA and then further into an asset. And perhaps that's, they choose to invest in an asset with you. So overall, the current number is about $24.5 trillion in America in all of our retirement savings combined. So it's a huge pile of money, a huge pool of funds. And as Americans, we just have to continue to save, and we're doing a pretty good job. In the year 2000, that $24 trillion figure was 11. So we've more than doubled the amount of savings we have as Americans. So that's great for us without doubling our population. Of course, we've got the silver tsunami going on right now, but that's a different story. So this is from the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor has come out with some new rules about fiduciary rules, but he's talking about how the responsibility for retirement savings is now squarely in the hands of ordinary Americans. And that's what self-directed IRAs are about. Saving for retirement is squarely in your hands. I mean, if you're depending upon Social Security, if you're depending upon some entitlement, you may not want to do that. And I think if that was your mentality, you probably wouldn't be here this morning learning what you're learning today. So if you haven't heard of self-directed IRAs, I think most of you have, but maybe you run into people who haven't. There's still a lot of CPAs and attorneys and so forth and financial advisors who don't know anything about this. It's kind of like the best kept secret. So what you can do is you can take, you can talk to these people, and this is what I want to say is that the rules for self-directed IRAs, they were formed 40 years ago. In 1974, Gerald Ford signed the ERISA laws into effect, and they went to effect in 1975. So that's what, 41 years you've been able to self-direct your IRA, but a lot of people still don't know about it. All right. So the difference between a typical IRA and a self-directed IRA, there isn't a big difference. Really, an IRA is an IRA. The way the money goes in is the same. The way the money comes out is the same. The way it's taxed, the rules, all the same, whether it's a regular IRA or a self-directed IRA. The only difference is the asset that the IRA can invest in. With a self-directed IRA, you get to invest outside the stock market, and that's what makes it special, okay? Into all kinds of different asset classes. These are just a few examples, you know, raw land, private stock, notes, trust deeds, syndications, maybe, you know, somebody who's opening a company and they want you to invest with them. Things like this you can do with the self-directed IRA. So here's a slide that says, what about losses? And I think this is really, really important because when you are investing, first off, when you're investing, your funds are at risk. And whenever you invest, there's risk, right? So you want to assess the risk and you want to do your due diligence. That's super important. But you don't just want to do the due diligence on, you know, on the front end. You want to do the due diligence on the back end too. For example, if you invest in your IRA buys a house and you checked out, you made sure the seller had the right to sell, you did your due diligence, you looked at the title, everything looked good. Did you make sure on the back end that deed got recorded? You know, so it's not just doing your due diligence on the front end, it's doing your due diligence on the back end. But with self-directed IRAs, it's sort of it's an interesting situation because if you invest with your self-directed IRA and your asset were to go to zero and you have a zero value asset, we get the phone call all the time where some people will say, hey, my asset is worthless, can you just write it down and close my account? And the answer is we can't do that. We can't just take a zero value. So what we need is for you to give us a professional evaluation opinion. Maybe it's an appraisal if it's real estate, or maybe it's a note, you need a valuator to give us a note. So even if you lose all your money in a self-directed IRA, in order to really write it off as a total zero value, we need a report stating it's a zero value asset. So you want to know that up front so that when you're doing your due diligence, you realize that you want to make a good investment, because if it gets written off, it's sort of adding insult to injury, but it's required that you have to prove that you lost money after you have. So be very, very careful. So what are the limits? What are the limits? With self-directed IRAs, what can you do with these, right? Well, a self-directed IRA can invest in anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. And by the way, an IRA is not going to be a shareholder in an S corporation, not because the IRS says so, but because S corp rules don't allow a non-human to be a shareholder. So, but the IRS tells us only these two things. They don't tell us what we can do, they tell us what we can't do, and you see what a short list it is. Now, the difference between what this list says and what is reality is what is administratively feasible. Do you like that term? Is the asset administratively feasible? So we may take a look at an asset and it may be allowed by the IRS, but we may decide it's not administratively feasible, meaning we make a business decision that that's an asset we don't wish to hold. It could be for a number of reasons. You know, we're not financial advisors, we're not going to tell you if it's a good or bad investment, but maybe we can see that there's litigation, or maybe we have some other reason to believe that it's an asset we don't wish to custody. So that's what that means. If you ever hear not administratively feasible, it just means, you know, that means no, basically. All right. So if your IRA or your 401k, or I should say if your 401k is with a current employer, will you be able to move it over? And I was talking to a couple people this morning about that. Someone has a 457, someone has a 401k, and they wish to roll it over into a self-directed IRA. Well, the truth is, when you're working for a company and you've got their employer plan, you really can't move that money over until you leave the service of the company, right? Except, there are exceptions. With 401ks, you may be able to get what's called an in-service transfer. You're working there, you're in service, and you wish to roll that money over into a self-directed IRA. So how do you get an in-service transfer exception? You go to the plan administrator of your plan and you ask, hey, I'm 59 and a half, or hey, I used to work at company A and we were required by this company, and can I use that money and roll it over? And you'll see what they say. But pretty much if you have money with a current employer, you cannot roll it into a self-directed IRA. Same thing with your clients. That's why you want to say, do you have an IRA or a 401k with a previous employer? Because if it's a current employer, pretty much they won't be able to move that money for the most part. Okay, so any conversation about self-directed IRAs includes the rules, and Bruce is teasing me about, I spend my day saying, well, you can't do that. And it's because real estate investors are super creative, really smart people, and you're always thinking away, how do I make this deal work? How can I make it work? Well, where it may work outside with your private cash, it may not work inside the self-directed IRA world because there's some rules. So we need to talk about that. What I'd like to I kind of think of this as a game of keep away, right? So what we want to do is keep away from prohibited transactions. So if I tell you, hey, we're going to play a game, your first thought is, how do I win? We got a bunch of type A's in here, right? You want to win. So I'll tell you how to win this game of self-directed IRAs, because we all want to have a great retirement, and that's what I would love for you. Some of the rules are written in Pub 590, and this year, recently, the IRS broke Pub 590 into two sections, A and B, but you can find it on their website, irs.gov, look up Publication 590. It's really easily read. It's written in a really great way that's, very digestible. So Pub 590 tells us some of the things. Finally, it's talking about prohibited transactions in Pub 590, but you're not going to use it to, you're not going to borrow money from your IRA. You're not going to use your IRA to take personal assets and sell them to your IRA. You don't use your IRA to buy personal assets, either for present or future use, okay? That's what the IRS says. But as we go further into the rules about self-directed IRAs, this is a rule that most people don't expect. An interesting rule. I don't know if it exists anywhere else. But some people are qualified and some people are disqualified to the IRA. So what does that mean? It's not just enough to say someone in your family is disqualified because, well, they may not be. So the disqualified people are your lineal ascendants and descendants, up and down the family tree. Your parents and grandparents and their spouses, then you and your spouse, and your children and your grandchildren and their spouses are disallowed to your IRA. Okay, plus any fiduciary that offers services to the plan can also be a disallowed person. All right, so that's important to know. Who can your IRA not do business with, and who can your IRA do business with? It's these people out to the side on your family tree, your aunts and uncles, your cousins, your brothers and sisters, your nieces and nephews. So your IRA could make a loan to your nephew that he can use to maybe go to college. But your IRA could not make a loan to your son so that he could go to college, because your son is a disallowed person. Your IRA could buy a house and then your uncle could fix it up. But if your IRA bought that same house, your father couldn't help you fix it up, even for free, because he's a disallowed person. All right, so these who's allowed and who's disallowed is one of the first tests you want to have your IRA investment pass. Am I working with disallowed people? And then we're going to talk about some of the other rules here. There we go, keep away from prohibited transactions, all right? So the purpose of an IRA is for retirement. It's for later, it's not for today. So when your IRA is investing, it's not so that you can benefit today, it's so that you can benefit later. And it's personal benefit, it's indirect benefit, present benefit, all these different phrases are out there. So if your IRA, say for example, lends money to your sister-in-law, that's fine. But can your sister-in-law go around and then lend money to your business? Think about that. The answer is no, because then you would receive indirect benefit from your IRA, right? So we have to think about these things before we invest. Number two, you're not going to buy, sell, or exchange assets between the plan and a disqualified person. And I kind of pointed that out already, but your IRA doesn't do business with these people. Now, your IRA can transfer upon death to disallowed people. That's fine. But while you're alive, you're not going to be doing business with your IRA and these disallowed people. And number three is the one that really trips people up. A disallowed person, okay, up and down your family tree, and any fiduciary offering services to the plan is not going to offer services to the plan, goods, facilities, or services to the plan. Here's an example. We got a purchase contract came into our office, and we were taking a look at it. Oh, it looked really great, and this account holder was getting a really good deal on this property, is very excited, And we were taking a look at it, like, wait a minute. We got all the way to the end, and the broker of record had the same last name. Well, it turns out his father was going to be the broker and wanted to get a commission, all right? So his father's a disallowed person. Not only can he not offer services for free, he certainly can't be paid. That would be a prohibited transaction. So what if you commit a prohibited transaction? What if your IRA messes up and there's a prohibited transaction? What are you going to do? It's just prohibited. It doesn't sound that bad. Well, it kind of is. What's going to happen is your IRA can be dispersed to you as a taxable event. Suddenly there is no IRA, you broke the rules, now you get 1099 for the value of your IRA, right? Now if it's a really big infraction, what you might want to do is get a private letter ruling. Now it's $10,000 to get a private letter ruling plus paying your attorney, but if you're in a big pinch and you think you might have a big tax hit and you think that what you did deserves consideration, you can request a private letter ruling. But if you commit a prohibited transaction, game over. The self-directed IRA game is over. And now you get to pay tax, and now that's your personal money. So that's why we talk to people when someone calls us and they say, hey, I'd like to open an account. Well, that's great, but what we want to do is talk to them. Well, tell me, what are you going to invest in? Tell me about your deal. I'm really interested to hear what you're thinking. You know, I was at a brunch that we did a couple years ago at a winery, and it was just like this morning. And this couple was there, and I think they were architects or something because their printing was so perfect. But they had this beautiful file and their plan about what they're going to do with their self-directed IRAs. So after the brunch, I sat down with them, we talked about it, we talked for about an hour, and we got to the end. They told me they really told me the truth about their deal. It's not that they were hiding it or being deceptive, but they just told me the final detail that put it over the top. The IRA, they're so excited, is going to buy this building in Barstow. So excited, and this, they had all these plans, and it sounded great. But what they told me at the end was that they personally own the building next door. All right, think about that. If your IRA buys this building, could it possibly improve the property value of this building? Could you possibly benefit personally from your IRA? You might not think about that right away, right? So what we always do is talk to you about your transaction to see if we can see a prohibited transaction so that you don't get in trouble. But whether or not your IRA is committing a prohibited transaction, the onus is on the IRA account holder to make sure that they're not doing anything wrong. Of course, we're going to do everything we can to help you, but the response is self-directed, and the responsibility lies with you, the account holder, to make sure that your assets are not in violation of the IRS rules. So more about the IRA game. You want to play to win, so you need to know who are the players. So there's you, the IRA account holder. Then there's your IRA. So when you're going to invest, I had this phone call yesterday. Someone is looking to buy an asset, and they wanted to write the contract in their own personal name. But it's not you buying the asset, it's your account. So it's the custodian for the benefit of your IRA. That's the name of the buyer, not you. And you don't sign it, we sign it. So there you go. That's something you might not expect, especially being investors. How many contracts have you signed? How many deals have you gotten into where you had somebody else sign on your behalf? That probably doesn't happen. But with self-directed IRAs, you're not the investor. The IRA is the investor. So another player in the game is, of course, uDirect IRA Services, right? We provide all the services for you from beginning to end. You call us for everything that you need, and we use the services of a trust company custodian. So these are the pieces to the puzzle and the players in the game. And that's basically the structure of the self-directed IRA, no matter who it's with. So I think that since we're in a room full of real estate investors, it's appropriate to talk about the pros and the cons about taking your IRA and investing it in real estate, right? Everything has its upside and downside. So first off, the great thing is that any gain that goes back in your IRA, you don't have to pay tax on. If your IRA buys a property, say for $100,000 today, and sells it 10 years later for, say, $200,000, you sell it, that $200,000 comes back in your IRA, boom, there it is. Now, if you were to do that personally, the money would come back into your checking account and you'd owe tax. So with the IRA, it's tax-free or tax-deferred. So now you don't have to pay income tax on that whole $200,000 or the gain. What you can do is take that whole $200,000 and put it out into your next deal so you can compound faster. Now, of course, there are other things too, like there's no time limit for holding property. We're going to hear from Mr. Bill Exeter this morning, and he's going to talk to you about the 1031 exchange. So what I'm talking about is inside the IRA, the retirement plan world. What Bill's going to talk about is outside of the IRA with your personal money doing a 1031 exchange. Two different ways to defer taxes, all right? So inside the IRA, there's no time limit for holding the property. You buy it today, you sell it tomorrow. There's no ramification at all. And your IRA can borrow money. I was talking to Larry this morning about the IRA borrowing money, and so I'll elaborate on that in just a little bit. But the downside about the IRA owning real estate is you don't get to take the kinds of tax deductions you would for regularly owning real estate. If your IRA owns a piece of real estate, the benefit you get is that the proceeds are tax-free or tax-deferred. But it doesn't matter what your cost basis is, really, because you're not going to take any deductions, right? So if you want to travel to the city where your IRA lives, you don't get to write that off on your income taxes. And Matt and Amanda, our tax experts, will come up here and further elaborate on things that you can and can't do. And if I've got questions, I call them. I call Keystone and I ask, what can we do here? So of course, you're solely responsible for all gains and losses. It's self-directed. You're choosing the asset. So if there is a loss, you're solely responsible for that loss. And you can't replace these losses easily because we've got contribution limits in IRAs. So if your IRA gets an asset and it turns out to be zero value and you've lost the money, replacing it, if it's a traditional or a Roth IRA, you can only put $5,500 or $6,500 a year in there, so it's hard to replace. So these are important pros and cons to weigh before you self-direct your IRA. You want to make sure you go into it having a really good idea of what you're doing. So I did mention that your IRA can borrow money, and I think this is a good time to say that the IRA can borrow money, and when it does, it's a non-recourse loan. So what that means is it's not a loan made to you, the person, it's a loan made to your IRA, and there can't be any recourse. So what that means is that if the IRA were to default on the loan, then the lender can only come against the subject property and not against any other assets in the IRA. So they're not going to be able to come against you personally or make you cash out any of your other assets. So not a lot of lenders to choose from, but I do have a list of non-recourse lenders. We put it together as a courtesy for people who call because this is not a common kind of a loan. It's not necessarily companies that we endorse, but for your benefit, you can call them and check them out and do your due diligence. So if you'd like that list, I'll have my email at the end. You can email me. I'd be happy to send you that list, okay? Now, with non-recourse loans, like I said, not a lot of lenders to choose from, and they want a lot more skin in the game. Maybe your IRA comes up with 50% or 60%, and then the loan is for 40% or so. So just know that with a non-recourse loan, you're going to have a lot more skin in the game. Your IRA will, but it's a way to borrow money and leverage. However, here we go. You can't personally guarantee a loan to the IRA. That's important. But when your IRA borrows money, it can lead to a tax. And Matt and Amanda can elaborate on this for you, but it's called UDFI, Unrelated Debt Financed Income Tax. So it's something to figure it out. Like what did Stephen Covey say? He said, begin with the end in mind. So if your IRA is going to invest in an asset and your IRA is going to take out a non-recourse loan, pencil it out. Here's my acquisition cost, my closing costs, my holding costs, and this is my profit. How does it come out in the end? So work with your CPA, your competent tax person, and figure it out ahead of time if your IRA is going to owe UDFI and how you deal with that. Now, another time an IRA owes a tax is when your IRA invests in an active business. So what could that be? Sometimes when your IRA invests in a private stock, like a private placement, that private placement may be running an active business and it may pass through this kind of tax to your IRA. How would you like to not know that? And you've invested, and now you're supposed to be filing a 990T every year. Your IRA is supposed to be filing this and paying a little tax every year, and you're not. So you really want to know these things before you start investing with your self-directed IRA. You want to play this game to win, right? All right. So buying real estate with an IRA, how do you do it, right? So it's a few steps. We all know what buying real estate is like. I don't think there's ever been a property on the face of the earth that didn't have expenses or that was pristine and needed absolutely nothing done. Typically, they're not like that, right? So the way you do it is first you open a self-directed IRA and get it funded. That takes 2 weeks. We open your IRA like that, but getting a custodian to move your money into the account with us, that's probably going to take 2 weeks. So your IRA really can't buy an asset if there isn't an IRA, and it can't buy an asset if there's no money in the account. So you want to do that first, get it open and funded. Then shop for your property, because the truth of it is so many people and so often we'll get the phone call and someone says, you'll be so happy this weekend, we found a house, we made an offer on it, we want our IRA to buy it, I want to open an account. You can't do that because your IRA can't buy an asset you have a personal ownership interest in, right? So you have to not buy that property, or you have to change or close the deal and go forward from that. So remember to open the account, then shop for the property, and remember the buyer isn't you, it's your IRA. So it's the custodian for the benefit of the IRA, and it can be kind of long. On these car forms, you kind of have to write it in by hand because it's a little too long. You know, they give you so many little teeny boxes to fill out, right? So there you go. So we sign the offer to purchase. You give us a direction letter. You give us the supporting documentation. That's your contract. We sign it. We get it out. You fund, you record, you get your keys, your tenants move in. Then they make their checks payable to the custodian for the benefit of your IRA. Okay? That's one way to do it. Your tenants could make their checks payable to the IRA, or your tenants could make the checks payable to a property manager. So all expenses of the IRA have to be paid for by the IRA, and of course you can't do any of the work on the property, right? So if you have got a property manager and the water heater bursts at 3 a.m., your property manager can go take care of it, that's fine. Your property manager can pay the bill and your IRA can reimburse them and so forth. So, and also your tenants don't have to know that your IRA owns the asset, owns the house, right? So these are very different reasons and some good things to think about why you might want to have a property manager if you've got a buy and hold with your IRA. So here's an example. We've got a father and a son buying a house. And I found a happier father and son, by the way, Aaron and Bruce here. So before we had grumpy people here, but now we have happy people. So there we go. So the dad has got cash and the son has a traditional IRA. And they're going to buy a piece of property together. And so it's going to be 50% dad, 50% son's IRA. So it reads the custodian for the benefit of the son's IRA, 50% owner, the dad 50% owner, tenants in common. But wait, aren't they disqualified to each other? Didn't I just tell you that the lineal ascendants and descendants are disqualified? They are, but this is an exception. It's because neither one of them had any ownership interest in the asset beforehand that they can do this. So they're going to fund concurrently. Their names will record on title at once. And so that's why they can do it. As long as it's a new deal and neither one of them had a ownership interest in the deal to begin with, they can do that. So after the deal, they become disqualified. They can never buy each other out, or neither one of them can ever stay there. And that's how that works. Now, what's going to happen going forward, in this case, it's a 50-50 split. Maybe it's 60-40 or some other, pro rata split. But in this case, all the expenses and all the proceeds are split pro rata. So if your IRA is going to partner with somebody, you partner from the very beginning, earnest money deposit. If it's 50-50, your IRA comes up with 50% of the earnest money, 50% of the closing costs, 50% of every repair bill, 50% of every tax bill. It's always pro rata. And same thing with the proceeds that come back in. And this is a good reason why a property manager can really help you. What if your IRA bought a rental property and now you've got a renter that needs to pay their rent? Who are they going to make their check payable to? Well, there are two owners, right? So they're going to have to write one check to the IRA and one check to dad in this scenario. But if you had a property manager, they could write one check and then the property manager could split it up. So that could really help in a situation like that. So I did say that the IRA has to pay all the expenses. What if the IRA runs out of money? And we all know with real estate, there's just a never-ending amount of things that you could spend money on, right? Landscaping and pipes and electrical work, there's no end. So if your IRA runs out of money, what do? Well, here's a list, and if you forget, you can just call me and say, hey, Kaaren, what do? I forgot. But your IRA, you can make a contribution. You can write a check out of your checking account and write it to your IRA. Now, how much is that check for? It depends upon your account type, your age, and your income. So you want to talk to your tax advisor. Say, hey, how much can I contribute to my IRA? And you want them to know anyway, because when it comes tax time, if that's tax deductible, you want them to be able to write that off on your taxes, a contribution, right? So you could liquidate other assets in the IRA. Maybe you've got some gold bullion and a property, so you sell the metals and use that money to pay off. Maybe you say it's a property tax bill that comes due and your IRA doesn't have enough money. So another thing you could do is transfer money from another IRA. Maybe you still have some stocks, bonds, and mutual funds across the street, so you liquidate those, transfer them over, takes a couple weeks, and make up for the shortfall. You could also bring on a partner, as long as they're not a disqualified person, and your IRA could borrow money, although I don't think an institution would make that kind of a loan. And if all else fails, you could just sell the asset. If there are expenses that your IRA can't meet, you can sell the asset and liquidate it. That's what you can do. Okay, so I was talking to a couple people this morning before we got started about the IRA-owned LLC, sometimes called the checkbook IRA. And that really confuses people. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've had where somebody says, hey, I just opened an IRA, when do I get my checkbook? It doesn't really work that way. So an IRA-owned LLC is something that it's another asset in your account. Your IRA is open and funded, your self-directed IRA is, and then you have a third party open a special purpose LLC. You don't open it yourself. And it's not a regular LLC, it's a special purpose LLC that has to have special language. So you want to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. So your IRA buys 100% of the initial units of this LLC. Money goes from the IRA to the LLC. You're the managing member, or you're the manager, or you're the member, and you get check writing privileges. So now the money is going from your IRA into this checking account. Now you have access to your IRA money, which that's not really the way the IRS intended it to be set up from the beginning, that you would have access to this money, but you do. So enjoy this while you can. There may be a day when you aren't able to do this, but you can. And so you have to follow all the same rules that we do to invest. And when your IRA is investing using an IRA-owned LLC, it's not passing through our eyes. We're not looking at it and saying, if we see a prohibited transaction, for example, all right? So this is a tool you can use. It's available to you, and we can talk more about it if you'd like to learn more. So it's not just IRAs that you can self-direct. We call it the self-directed IRA, but it's so much more. As far as IRAs are concerned, it's a traditional, a Roth, a SEP, a simple, a spousal, and inherited IRA. All these IRAs can be self-directed. Plus, these employer plans can be self-directed. And the solo K, the individual K, a 401k for a self-employed person who has no full-time employees in their company can have a solo K it's really a very powerful tool for self-employed people. And even a Coverdell, or it's also called an ESA, or Education Savings Account, can be self-directed, as can an HSA, a health savings account. So when we say self-directed IRA, it's an umbrella description for all of these different kinds of accounts that can be self-directed. All right, so how do you do this? I mean, how do you self-direct anyway? I like to say it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, but we know it's a little more complicated. But you open an account, you fund it by putting money in it, and then you invest. Open, fund, invest. That's how it works. So you open an account, we have a $50 setup fee. You give us the application, a copy of your ID and so forth, a copy of the asset statement from the account that you're bringing over. We get that account open usually in the same day. Now funding the account, okay, getting the money in. So if it's an IRA to IRA transfer, we can help you with that. If it's a previous employer plan rollover, we can help you with that. And if you're going to make a contribution, you want to talk to your tax advisor about how much you can contribute. So now your account's open and there's money in it. Now you want to invest. So you give us the supporting documentation, like if it's a trustee, the contract, right, and the collateral instrument. Or if you're buying a house, the purchase and sale agreement. Or if you're buying bullion, it would be like a receipt for the metals, that sort of thing. So a direction letter from us, plus the supporting documentation. We review it, and assuming that it is administratively feasible, right? You funds, you record or whatever, and then your IRA owns an asset. Now all the proceeds have to go back in the IRA that owns the asset. That's really important. All the proceeds go back into the IRA that owns the asset. We've had people who have, this one woman had a house in her IRA, and she was taking all the rent and putting it into a different IRA. That's a prohibited transaction. It's called taking constructive use of your IRA, and it disallowed the IRA. So make sure the money goes back into the IRA that actually owns the asset. That's how you do it. Open, fund, invest. And if you'd like more information, I'll be here for a while, and I'm more than happy to take any of your questions. You can reach me through my website. There's a lot of contact information there. It's uDirectIRA.com. And we're on social media, too. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. You can find us on social media all over the place. And we just love to talk to you about your deals and what you're looking to invest in. So with that, I want to thank the Norris Group again for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
We have a few minutes if you want to take questions now. At the very end, we're going to get all of them up at the same time, which is one of my favorite parts because you get to ask more complex questions, and we don't have an attorney in the room this time because usually it's always ask the attorney. But
I think we have one question.
Sure.
Right here at the front table.
Oh, okay. Let me get the mic over there.
In the
so we
black
can hear.
shirt.
Yeah, my question is, how does this all play into your tax return on Schedule E? I guess it doesn't.
How does it play into your tax return on Schedule E? That would be a great question for the tax advisors. because we don't give tax advice. And we don't prepare tax returns. It's a great question, but typically an IRA isn't paying taxes. Typically the assets in the IRA are tax-free or tax-deferred, but when Matt and Amanda come up, they can certainly address that question. Yes? Oh, hang on a sec, he's going to bring you the mic. There you go. Yeah.
On a 403B,
Yeah.
and you're an existing employee,
Yeah.
I saw that you had to get permission from the custodial or whatever. Assuming you can do that, you're in good shape. Otherwise, you have to wait till you're no longer an employee.
Right,
Is
so
that
he's
correct?
asking about a 403B plan. If you're currently employed with an employer that offers a 403B, usually it's like teachers and nurses and things like that have 403B plans, and usually they won't even offer an in-service transfer option. You really have to wait till you leave the service of that employer before you can use the money at all. So I don't think 403Bs even offer an in-service transfer provision. Yeah. Yes?
So you talked about the fact that a lot of attorneys don't know much about self-directed IRAs. A lot of accountants don't know much about them. How focused is the IRS on these? Have you seen a lot of,
Too
a lot of
focused.
transactions disallowed?
I don't see a lot of transactions disallowed, no, and how focused is the IRS on them? I think after Mitt Romney had the $20 million, $100 million Roth IRA or IRA, the IRS got very interested in self-directed IRAs. How did somebody defer all this tax? And they did a lot of studying about it. And so there are maybe some proposals that are out there that may or may not change the way we handle IRAs. So the IRS definitely looks at them. They definitely understand self-directed IRAs. And when you get audited, they're definitely going to look at your self-directed IRA if you got audited to see if they find a prohibited transaction. But how many phone calls have I had in 10 years of somebody saying, I'm being audited, the IRS says I have a prohibited transaction, can you help me out or give me some documentation? I maybe had one call like that in 10 years, so that's my experience. We have a question up front too later on.
Okay.
You mentioned that the self-directed IRA can purchase precious metals. I think you said something about bullion.
Yes.
In that case, should you decide to purchase that, who actually holds the physical product?
So he's asking if your IRA invests in precious metals, which it can, and whether or not the IRA can invest in a particular precious metal has to do with its level of purity. There are standards for purity of the metals being held in the IRA, but he wants to know where are those metals held. They're usually held with like a depository where it's in a segregated vault, and so they're held securely and custodied for your IRA.
There's a question?
You say IRA can buy note. You buy note, but right now we have new rules. If you buy note for $100, you have backup or different assets minimum 10 times more. How you buy my notes?
How does an IRA buy a note? Well, just speak in general terms. It's what a willing buyer will pay, what a willing seller will accept. So an IRA can purchase a note, and then the IRA would be entitled to the stream of income from that note. So a lot of people will buy notes that are performing or non-performing, and that's how that works. Yeah.
Performing or non-performing is different story.
Yeah.
But problem, we have new rules. If you buy note, you have to have access different property, different notes, 10 times more. If I have on my IRA 100,000,
Yeah.
big money. Okay, I invest 50,000. You can now. Why? You have to have 500,000, 10 times more in your backup.
Well, a look through he's talking about. Well, we
A
can
lot-
talk about
lot.
that offline because
Okay.
when it comes to that particular situation, we're talking about investment advice. Yeah. Right. Well,
The 10% rule, I think that's what you were talking about, right? Yeah, the 10% rule is a complete look-through. So your IRA is part of your net worth. So it's 10% minus your principal residence, furniture, and yes, and cars.
okay.
Yeah. So we look through to the entire person, but it's a good point. Correct. It's your IRA, but we look through for the entire net worth. Through to the person. It's a good question.
And
it
that's
comes
something
up.
that the asset sponsor specializes in, and we don't on our end. It's not that is a condition of the asset sponsor, not a condition of the IRA. So
Yeah, and that's a regulation on us.
Right.
So we're regulated by the Bureau of Real Estate. We don't pool money, or else we would be regulated by the SEC.
right.
So the 10% rule, there's a form that the Bureau of Real Estate makes all of our investors, that's what Bruce talked about, SB 978 in 2013. That's what triggered that. And it's a 2-page form that you
I
fill
think we have a
out.
question over here in
Yeah,
front.
we got 2. Okay.
How many properties are you permitted to hold in your IRA?
How many properties can you hold in your IRA? The answer is no limit, an infinite number of properties in your IRA. So just your IRA can earn an unlimited amount of proceeds. Your IRA can invest in an unlimited number of assets. Now, you can open an unlimited number of IRA accounts as well. The only thing that's capped is how much you can contribute. So there you go. I think she had a question.
IRAs are tax-free when you invest, but then you mentioned UDFI and UBIT. Is that
Yes.
only because when you take a loan?
Right, so a Roth IRA is tax-free for life. The money comes in after tax, and then as you withdraw it, it's tax-free for life. With a traditional or a SEP or a simple, you put the money in, and sometimes you get a tax write-off for it. The money grows tax-deferred, but you pay tax when you take it out, just to be clear about that. And so your question is, well, wait a minute, there are these kinds of taxes. Kaaren, you told me about UBIT and UDFI. That's true. These are the exceptions. So as I was mentioning, when your IRA borrows money, your IRA can be taxed on the proceeds received because of borrowed money. When your IRA invests in an active business, your IRA can owe a tax. Let me explain this a little bit. It kind of goes back to the Catholic Church, since we seem to be sitting in one, it seems. I think it's appropriate. The Catholic Church is a tax-deferred entity, right? Churches are tax exempt. So if the Catholic Church has a bakery, and then Joe down the street has a bakery, well, guess what? The Catholic Church can charge less for their baked goods because they don't have to pay tax, right? So the IRS saw that there was this disparity and created unrelated business income tax. So owning a bakery and running a bakery is unrelated to the business of the Catholic Church. So unrelated business income tax. Now Joe and the Catholic Church are on an even playing field tax-wise. So that's kind of some of the initial thinking behind the UBIT tax. And because an IRA is tax exempt in that way, it applies to it as well. But again, I think Matt and Amanda can give you better tax advice on that, just generally speaking. So yes, UBIT and UDFI are the exceptions.
One more? We have
One
time
more.
for? Okay, there's
One
2
more.
more. 2 more.
Let's say you have a self-directed IRA with property in it, and you pass prior to the age of 70, and it passes on to your heirs. Can your heirs continue the same plan? Do they have to reconstruct everything? Or?
Such a good question, yeah. No, it's a really good question. The whole concept of inherited IRAs is not a simple one, but if someone passes away and they name you as the beneficiary of their IRA, you receive a beneficiary IRA. It doesn't go through probate. You just suddenly, now that's your asset. Well, you get an inherited IRA. But then you have to take RMD distributions, required minimum distributions, based on the life of the deceased. So if someone has a property in their self-directed IRA, you're their beneficiary and they pass away, now you have this account. And what do you do with it? Well, first off, you talk to your tax professional and you get some advice, because you've got some choices you can make. You can do things one way or the other, but you're going to have to, at some point, take distributions. And so it'll be based on the lifetime of the deceased. And so if all they have is a non-liquid asset in the account, how do they take distributions? Well, one way is to get an appraisal every year and title some of the property into your own name, but that's expensive and the IRA has to do it every year, and there has to be enough cash in the IRA to do that every year. Or you liquidate the asset and then you distribute the cash as you wish. But when someone passes away and you inherit an IRA, the very first thing you should do is go talk to a tax professional, a financial advisor, because you don't want any time to go by. Of course you're grieving, but you want to make sure that there are time limits. You have to do certain things by certain dates. So you want to make sure that you get those wheels in motion right away so you have as many choices as possible. Inherited IRAs are not simple things, but just generally speaking, that's how you would handle it. One more.
Are there any limitations on where an IRA can own property? Can it own property overseas? for
Well,
example?
yes, an IRA can own property on the moon, technically, but it's whether or not it's administratively feasible, all right? So recently, I'd say 3-4 years ago, there were some changes in the banking laws about foreign money going to and from foreign countries. So whether or not your IRA is going to invest in a foreign country, you have to ask the custodian that you're looking at self-directing your IRA with whether or not that foreign asset is administratively feasible. Will they custody that asset? But will the IRS let you? Absolutely. But when your IRA is investing in a foreign country, it may be tax-free or tax-deferred here in the United States, but your IRA could be subject to the taxes of that foreign government. So your IRA would pay those taxes, right? So you need to consider that too when your IRA invests in a foreign country. You may be tax exempt here, but you're not tax exempt there. So you need to find out what the laws are for that particular country.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to take another 15-minute break. Any other questions? If you can hold on again at the very end, we're going to have an opportunity to ask